On this week's episode of the Peach Life Podcast, we are joined by Will and Kristin from Number One Bus as we talk about their journey into schoolie life and how life on the road can be a better option for many professions. Join us each week as we talk to inspiring and creative individuals and learn just how big living tiny can really be. We hope you enjoy this episode of the Peach Life Podcast. Please like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell for new episodes each week. Sweet. Well, thank you guys for joining me.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
Yeah.
I thought it'd be fun to ask a random question, so I got a little list of random questions, like get to know you questions. So let me see here.
All right.
Okay. Oh, this is a funny one. What is the craziest fashion trend you guys ever followed? Like, so growing up.
Oh, well, you gotta go.
Which one is it? Like
You're skateboarding, wearing like 5X t-shirts.
Oh yeah, that's a good one. Yeah.
Well, like,
Skateboarding.
Yeah.
So I'm 5'8", so I'm not very tall, but I used to wear like XL shirts and
Oh man,
like big old baggy pants, and then you'd wear two shirts. It'd be like an undershirt and an overshirt. Oh, it's just
he looks ridiculous.
But it's funny, like all the baggy clothes and all that stuff are coming back into trend now. So like it's funny how that whole trend cycles again. But yeah, the XL shirts, and then I wear mediums now, so it's like I'm in between a medium and a large, but wearing two XL shirts is
No, I remember too, like growing up, I kind of went through the entire scene of skateboarding on both sides, where it went from the big baggy side to like everybody just wearing skinny jeans too, and like just, it went from big giant like puffy globe shoes to like people just wearing like tiny little Vans.
Right.
So it completely changed over like a 10-year period. It was a big shift.
Yeah, I remember when I was a kid wearing Jinkos. Do you guys remember those?
Oh yeah.
I had some Jinkos when I was younger.
Yeah,
They're coming back too.
Every once in a while now on like Instagram or something, you see somebody post those like, oh, only 90s kids will remember, this stuff. And it's, you always see some crazy stuff. Oh man. Yeah, that was an interesting fad for sure.
Yeah.
I thought they were so cool.
Yeah, well, awesome. I mean, yeah, I'd love to just kind of hear you guys' story and hear, where this all started for you guys. I mean, it's a big life change to do something like this. So I'd love to, hear where you guys came from about it from.
Yeah. So we took a trip in 2015. It was like one of our first work trips together. We kind of started a little like photography, videography company. And so it took us out to California, and we decided, since we're going to be out in California on a business trip's dime, we would continue the trip on our dime. So we rented a car and we traveled up the coast of California, and we just lived out of our SUV for the entire trip. And it was like the best trip ever. I loved it so much. So whenever we got back, I became obsessed with the idea of living in a van. And I was like, well, I want to sell all of our stuff and live in a van. And he was like, what? No, that's insane. Like, we can't do that. And like, realistically, at the time, we had a lot of stuff. We had a 3-bedroom house, 2 storage units, both had cars, both had motorcycles. It was like, but I was like, no, we can do it. Like, people do this. Like, we can do it. And he was like, no. He just like shut the idea down completely. We actually like got into like a fight about it, and it was like, I was like, I want to do this, and he was like, no, Kristin, that's not realistic. Like, what are we gonna do with all of our stuff? So I kind of just was like, well, I guess I love Will more than the idea of traveling, so I put it on the back burner. But I never like stopped tagging him and things on Instagram. I was like, this could be us every time I would see like a van picture or something like that. And that went on for like 3 years, where I was just tagging him and things and constantly being like, hey, we should like live in a tiny house, or we should live in a bus. I would just always say things like that. But then we found minimalism in 2000, I think it was 2017 that year we found it. And I was like borderline hoarder whenever we first, I had one of the rooms in our house was a closet of mine. It was just clothes everywhere, all like top to bottom clothes, the whole room. And so I started like getting rid of all of my stuff when I watched that minimalism documentary over Christmas that year. Then I came back from, we were on a Christmas trip. And when I came back, I just started like shedding everything. And Will was like, what's going on? Like, can't believe you're getting rid of all this stuff. And he was like, this is kind of cool. It looks good in here, you know? So then he started getting rid of his stuff too. And then we were working so much. We were traveling like half of the year. We were like gone from our house just on business trips, like traveling, filming things. They were always really cool trips. Like we went to like Germany, or we went to Ireland and Paris and like all over the place filming things. But we'd always come back and be like, we didn't really miss anything except for our bed and our dog, because we didn't have, and we had a cat at the time, but no baby. So we were like, we just missed our babies in our bed pretty much. And then Will got this really big work trip one day. He came in he got this really big work project, and he was working like nonstop, like 24/7 doing this video. And it was like stressing him out, and he was not sleeping. And he came in and he was like, I was thinking when I'm done with this video, we should just buy a bus and convert it into a house and just travel around the country. And I was just like, yeah, we should totally do that. That's all your idea. How'd you think that up? And so basically, I just brainwashed Will into thinking it was a great idea to get rid of all of our stuff and move into a bus. And now we're here.
Yeah, and here we are today.
You guys are like a year and a half into living full time in it.
Almost 2 years. Yeah, we're like a month away from being in it for 2 years.
Yeah.
Okay.
April 1st will be 2 years.
Okay. And how has that been, with the transition?
Yeah, it's been great. It's we've really enjoyed it. I mean, it's so weird even like being back right now, like rebuilding out. There's, you think you have this perfect build, and then you hit the road, and then like, being on the road for a year and a half, we're like, we wish we did this, or we wish we did that. And so that was kind of why we came back to reset and finish those things, because now we feel like we have the perfect build for what we want. But we love it. I mean, like Kristen's been staying like at my parents some nights just because I have tools everywhere. We have a kid, and it's just a mess painting stuff anyways. And she misses it every time she comes in, like back to the bus. She's like, oh my gosh, I just miss it. It feels weird not being in it. And yeah, we're excited to hit the road. Yeah, get
definitely confirm that I prefer to live in a bus over a house, being in a house for the last few weeks.
No, for me, that was kind of the same thing. Is once I like kind of did tiny living, I just can't see myself going back. The freedom that you have from just having less stuff, and I guess it all has to tie together. You kind of can't live tiny without kind of taking some ideas from minimalism. But anybody that I see that really starts doing that, you just see the freedom that it opens up in your life. And you can still have the things that are important to you, whatever it is, whether you're big into kayaking or fishing or fly fishing or whatever it is, all the kinds of different stuff. You can still have the things that are most important to you, but it's just so much junk that people have and collect.
Yeah. There's like something like you use 20% of your belongings 80% of the time. So that just means like the other 80% of your stuff is usually just sitting there, and it's just junk. It's really stuff that it might be nice stuff, but it's not stuff that you use. It doesn't bring value to your life, really. It's just sitting there collecting dust.
Yeah, you really see. I mean, especially I imagine too, once you get out on the road and like having those trips where you get back and you're like, well, wait, did we use this the last 3 months? Like, if we didn't use this, like, why is this extra weight, coming along with us?
Yeah.
Little things like that.
True. We actually we still, when we hit the road, I feel like we're always getting rid of, another bag of stuff and donating it, even monthly. And the first, when we first moved on the bus almost 2 years ago now, we loaded it up with all this stuff and things that we're going to use. And we had pretty much like bags of things after the first like month, maybe 2 months of just stuff to donate. We're like, we don't need this. It doesn't make sense to have it. And kind of, we have a rule. It depends on what it is, but pretty much if it's less than $20 and we don't use it all the time, then it can be donated or something. Like if it's something that we need that we can go buy for under $20, then, it's not worth taking up extra space on the bus because yeah, we don't have that much space.
Yeah, I can imagine. And I love with the remodel. I thought it was cool you guys were doing that as well. That was one of the things I was able to talk to Kels and Jay about was theirs and kind of the things they had learned from theirs. And I imagine, you get out on the road for a certain amount of time and you see what little things maybe aren't even mistakes, but just ways to improve little areas of kind of the bus, the functionality of it. So what are some of the things that you guys decided to do with it?
Yeah, so after being on the road, when we were building the bus, we didn't really get to see any other buses. I mean, there wasn't really a huge thing of them out there. We went to a couple festivals and saw some friends' buses and figured out what we would like, what we didn't like. But after being on the road and seeing people like Kelson Jay's bus and other people's, Gilligan Phantom was an example of why we went with the dinette style.
Yeah.
They have the dinette area where the kids could play, and like Rome's old enough now where she wants to color and play with Play-Doh and stuff like that. And our couch setup just wasn't, we thought it was going to be perfect. We thought we were going to sit there all the time and eat. And like you're sitting shoulder to shoulder, all the time. There's a car seat always strapped in one side. And it just didn't make sense. So the dinette was the way to go. And we can still have it as like a pull out area for guests to come stay and still get that use of that area. So that was like our overall biggest change that we really wanted to do, that we love now. And then Rome, when she moved in, she was 6 months old. So we had a pack and play still, like a little crib area. And that's just what we had to run with. And now she really sleeps with us like all the time. But we did make her like a big girl bed. So we redid her bed area that kind of sits lower to the ground. It's like her kind of space. And she's been like in the daytime, she loves playing with it. Like toys, it's got like a little ledge and things like that. Where now, because before the pack and play kind of blocked the back area a lot, and now we have all the windows on the one side of the bus, and it really just lightens up the bus a lot. So
Yeah, it's awesome. And we're just hoping that one day she'll actually sleep in her bed. So
for sure, yeah. And then the floors, the floors was the other thing that we changed.
Yeah, that was gonna talk to you guys about that too. We went with the life proof, and we are so happy for it. I mean, it was hard deciding like the extra price for it. It was really hard, but when we finally made the decision and I put it in, I was so happy with the result with it.
The quality is just so much better. That's where like it was one of the last things, and we cut costs. We're like, oh, we'll just get the cheap stuff that's like whatever a square foot, and we still use that stuff underneath of the bed to just save costs because that's a whole bunch of area that's just gonna be.
Yeah.
But we glued it this time instead of floated it under the bed.
Yeah, see, that's something that I saw you doing that I kind of was thinking I wish if I did it again that I would probably do. Is yeah, that's probably the one thing I would have done. So if I ever
Yeah, just because all like, oh, go ahead. Sorry.
Oh, I was just gonna say, yeah. I mean, the idea of the free floating, seemed good as well to give a little bit of flexibility with some movement as well. But I can also see the other way that it could have been, it could be potentially, better to have it, glued down.
Yeah, that's what we were just thinking. Like, with all the movement and all like the sand from different places and dirt and in and out all the time, it was just getting in those cracks and all that. So I'm like, if we can just glue this down and stop this from potentially happening, it'd be great.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, and then with the other thing I was gonna mention is too, like, and we're trying to still figure this out too with with our daughter is like, I think that's one of the hardest thing for families living in there is figuring out how do you make, usually it's pretty easy for the parents, but usually you're trying to make a kid's bedroom out of almost nothing in most either RVs or buses. So it's definitely an interesting thing trying to figure out ways to be creative, with kind of those areas of the bus.
yeah,
How old is your
She's
say daughter? How old is she?
she's 7. Yes.
That's like Jess. She has an 8-year-old, and she created a really cool space in her bus for her little boy.
it was funny. We started on her area first, and then that was the very last thing that we ended up finishing. That was the last piece of the bus to go in because we were just so unsure of like how to do it.
Well, and originally we weren't planning on having it.
Yeah,
So that was a dog bed. That was what her room was going to be.
Yeah, and then that changes so fast too with how fast they grow. What they need over those first few years kind of changes a lot. So that's the other part about, making something kind of permanent that can be a little more difficult with that.
Right. Yeah. Her space is gonna have to be. Well, actually, we could actually, when she gets bigger, like her space could just be the couch area. It should just be a lot of work, but if she ever starts sleeping on her own.
Yeah, well, that's currently what we had to do. Was basically the living room couch is kind of a futon / bed, so it ended up being kind of her bedroom as well. That we were able to kind of have it where there's a curtain that swings around, so she can have her own like kind of bedroom part. But eventually we'll figure something in the slide out that'll be like a kind of permanent bedroom type of thing. With the outside, that skateboard rail, how the heck did you decide to do that? I mean, that seemed, when I saw, I was like, that's crazy.
Yeah, so I've always been a big skateboarder growing up, and it's one of the things, I mean, I still try to do daily all the time. Like I'm just addicted to it for life. It's like my escape getaway.
Yeah.
So anyways, that was something that I was like, you know what, let's customize this bus. Let's make it something a little bit more special to us. So where we were building it, my buddy Paul, he's a pro skateboarder, Paul Hart, and he had a skate park in his backyard that we used to skate all the time. Anyways, the bus was being built in that same area, and all the old rails, the handrails and all that stuff that were at the park were just sitting around.
Okay.
And I was like, oh, it'd be sick because it had the crossbar that came out of the bank. So I was like, it'd be sick if we took this. It was like the right size. It had like the good steel. And I was like, what if we just took this and then mounted it sideways on the bus and then just made it so like a ledge to skate. So yeah, that's what we did. And so like it pulls out because it had adjustments from, being a bar that came out of the ramp. So like a lot of those components were already existing.
So is there just a pin? There's just a pin you pull out and slide it out and put the pin. Okay. Man.
Yeah. So the pin, it slides out. Now we have some extra decks. So our same roof deck that's cut down, and it fits perfectly in that groove. And then the pins just go in, and you're ready to skate. It takes like 5 minutes at the most to set up. But that's been cool. It's been amazing to skate in some like crazy locations.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Like we're
And then
yeah.
just other times when there's other, bus, either whatever festivals or things like that, I can imagine there's times where, you just pull that out and, you kind of can get a whole group together, people together skating. So that's awesome.
For sure. Yeah. We actually met up with our good friends driving back across country a few months ago. And they're all people that I grew up skating with. And I was like, hey, let's just go skate the bus. It was like 1 a.m. in a parking lot. We pulled it out and skated for a while. So pretty fun. Yeah. It's a good little feature that we added to the bus.
Yeah, that's such a cool feature. It's one of those, just super unique things. But yeah, with traveling now, you guys have been traveling for a while. What's maybe one of your guys' favorite spots that you guys have found, or maybe one that you maybe were extra, surprised by, didn't realize was gonna be as cool as it was?
Kristen?
Okay, well, the best spot that I honestly didn't even know I never had heard of it before, but is Nova Scotia. We went there the first summer that we moved onto the bus, and it's like just insanely beautiful there, and the people are so nice, and it was just the best time. Like I wasn't expecting that. I think Will was, but I was like, I really wanted to go out west, and Will was like, no, we need to go like hit the East Coast and go up to Nova Scotia. So I was like, dang it. But it was like totally beautiful, and we loved it out there. But then that's in Canada, so you can't really go there right now. But in the US, I would say Sedona for me. I loved it there.
Sedona's great. Just the colors are amazing. Sedona, I don't know. There's a lot of hidden gems that we like ended up finding that were just great. But yeah, Sedona was probably the number one area.
Another surprising area was Idaho. We really liked Idaho, and I mean, when you think of Idaho, you don't really think it's like a place to go, but it actually is like incredible and so beautiful, and so many like hot springs and beautiful mountain ranges and things like that. It's a really cool place.
Yeah, I mean that whole area, I mean there's so many like the Tetons, like just the mountain range is insane to look at, and we camped there for a long time with Kelsey and Jay. We had like a little summer camp where it's just such a good experience. Like we just had a good time as friends. But yeah, even Idaho was just such a, I was not expecting Idaho to be as cool as it was. You know, there's like a little hidden area called the Sawtooth that looks like the Tetons. There's hot springs everywhere.
Really? Okay. So that's maybe interesting. Because that's not one that you hear about normally from, kind of travelers like that. So that's maybe a little hidden gem there.
It is for sure. And there's plenty of spots to stay off grid there for like weeks at a time.
Okay, so they have a lot of like BLM land that people can stay as they travel along the way, because that's usually a big factor in that, is how much and how easy is it to find spots along kind of along those routes.
Yeah, and that's just the difference between the East Coast and the West Coast right there. Is East Coast does not have those components of places to stay for a long time, where the West Coast is filled with them. Like I mean, you can drive an hour and find another spot like that. Where on the East Coast, you kind of got to go. You got to stay rolling. So
You got to get through those areas through basically like a lot of just like Walmarts and truck stop type of things.
Yeah, I mean, unless you're into like campgrounds and things like that, but we really try our best to stay out of campgrounds. So the
Okay.
East Coast we stayed in Harvest House and Walmarts and places like that a lot on the East Coast. We also have lots of family on the East Coast, so we would stop in and see them, but it's
and
a
state parks
lot
too.
easier on the West Coast.
A lot of state parks on the East Coast that we would hit and stuff like that. And then I mean, on the East Coast, the Adirondacks is a beautiful place. I mean, that's one of our favorite places too.
One of the things I was interested in asking you is, with you guys currently, travel with the motorcycle, and how has that worked out for you guys, and has that idea kind of had to change as with having a daughter, as at some point is that going to have to change where you have to tow a vehicle with you, or do you guys think?
We've talked about that a lot. The motorcycle's been great. I mean, there's so many times where it's been nice to go ride or even go to the grocery store, get firewood, just like real quick things. It's easy to get off the bus, easy to load back up. We can do it pretty fast. We haven't needed to bring a car. We're actually going to for like the next month when we hit the road. We're gonna, because we still own a car here in Florida. So we're gonna stay around Florida for like the next month, and Kristen's kind of just gonna drive the car around because it makes sense being around here. But we really haven't needed one. If we know we need a car, or like if I fly out for a video shoot or something like that, we'll just go to a spot where the girls are safe, and we'll get a rental car.
Okay.
That way we're not towing around a car the whole time.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. Because that's one of those ones is seeing, I mean, and of course it depends on the size of the rig, whether I mean, if you've got a big 40-foot or 40-foot plus, like, it's going to be hard getting into a lot of spots around, towns and stuff. So, at certain points, it's almost worth adding the extra space on the end, knowing that you just need to get to kind of some bigger areas and just unhook and use that to get around. But yeah, I love the idea of just having the motorbike. I think to me, that's like the perfect route to go, is, as long as you can manage it with, the amount of people in the family, basically.
Yeah. And Kristen did just get an electric bike, so that's something that we're going to add to the bus, which is nice. It'll be a nice little thing for her to just ride around and stuff like
You
that.
can put a little thing on, a little carrier seat for Rome on there
Yeah.
too. But I guess our bus isn't so big that like when we need to go places like the grocery store, restaurants, or things like that, we can just take the bus. So
Yeah.
for us, it's not practical to tow or for me to have to drive and then pay for that extra gas to just kind of like be following the bus around. So
It's
we
nice
don't-
to have somebody else in the bus with me too.
Yeah.
It's nice. It's funny. So like our friend Dean, when we were just in Salt Lake, he even brought it up. Like something happened in the bus, like something fell or whatever, and he lived on a bus. He had the bus called the Schoolie, He lived in that bus for a while, and it's just him. And like Kristen went to go pick up something while we were driving or something. He's like, dude, that is such a nice thing that somebody else is in the bus to help out with if something falls or if you need to grab something, I don't have to pull over and do that. So it's nice to have, extra hands in the bus.
Yeah, definitely. And yeah, at the size that you guys are at, that there really isn't much need to to have do something extra unless you absolutely needed to. Um, one thing I love, seeing it, I mean, and especially even through with talking with Kels and Jay and Justin from Gilligan, is just seeing how that community, how amazing the community is and has been, helping out with along the way. So, are there some of the it seems like there's really good lessons to be learned from just seeing kind of how people are building such a strong community with this.
You really find some of the most amazing people, honestly. Like they're some of our best friends now. We didn't even know Kelson J 8 months ago, you know, and now we talk to them on a daily basis. Like I don't know. It's so hard to explain without like being in that, like meeting people on the road and just hitting it off in the right spot and the right destination. I don't know. And like everybody's just so helpful and into the same thing. So
Right.
that's
The thing is, like, even if you don't have like anything else in common, you'll have like the fact that you decided to get rid of most of your stuff to travel around in some sort of tiny vehicle. So,
Yeah.
and you can talk, like, you just like connect over that. And then you find the people that you have like more in common with, and you just create these like bonds. And then you get to like travel with them, which even like creates more bonds. And yeah, we've met some incredible people in the last 2 years, and
yeah. And
we travel
everybody's willing to
forever.
help. Like if something happens, like everybody's there to help in the community to figure it out. Like even right now, like so Alex that was with Kelson J is actually right behind us right now. He's here like helping
Oh,
us finish
awesome.
up uh
That's amazing.
on the bus. So he's actually with us right now, and then we're gonna go meet up with Kelson J again. But that's a perfect example, is like everybody's willing to help. And so like after we finish our bus, we're actually gonna go help somebody else like start the build process on there. So it's like everybody, and it's kind of fun. I mean, the first year that we were on the bus, we didn't really see anybody. Like we didn't see other schoolies. We were by ourselves pretty much on the East Coast, except for when we were in the Adirondacks with our buddy Mike from Navigation Nowhere, and Richard and Liz and Dale and like that whole group. But other than that, we didn't see anybody. So then we go out west and we meet all these people, and like that's when Kelson J came out west, and those are some of the best times I think we had overall just this last year.
Dude, yeah, that's amazing seeing that community and the way, I mean, for us, the way that, all of them have kind of opened up, for us and just be, been willing to share their stories. It's been so awesome to kind of get to see that.
Definitely.
Yeah, well, with what are some of the space saving ideas that you guys have found that really work, and or that you've kind of implemented into kind of the new build as well to kind of help?
Yeah, for space saving though, for even us, is like for tool wise, is just like narrowing down all the tools. Like that's one question we get a lot, is like what tools do you need on the road,
Yep.
and narrowing down tools of like, I don't need, I mean, I hope I don't need a hand saw. I mean, it's great to have it on the bus if I had it, but I don't need it. And even like a welder. So like, I have a full size welder for back at home, but I have like a small one that's like, it only weighs 15 pounds. I can only do so much with it, but I still have it. It doesn't take up as much space. It's light. So those are like the little things, because tools is super important to have on the road in this lifestyle. I mean, you never know what's going to happen, or if somebody needs help or whatever. So to be able to have that um, with you is a big piece, but you don't need all the big stuff. Just try to narrow down like one screwdriver, not five, one flathead, not five. So yeah, it's kind of hard to get rid of tools, because I'm a big fan of having, I like to have all the pieces, but
Yeah, I
we've
hear
been
that.
good with
It's
there.
it's hard, that the thought of getting rid of any tools is like yeah, that's
I know it's scary.
yeah, no, it really is though. Once you get out, at least two, for like for people that once they get out, they can kind of see what things what things work, and especially tools especially for a lot of guys, like tools are heavy. They probably add, especially if you take a lot. I mean, you could add an extra 100 pounds in tools real quick.
Yeah, that's for sure. And then that's what's funny. Like, so the other side of that, this is the back to the community. Alex, who lives in like the same size bus as us, but it's just him in there. Like, he's got every other tool in the world that you could ever need, pretty much. So if we don't have it, we'll just be like, hey, Alex, do you have this? And of course, he has it. You name it, he has it pretty much, which is funny. I'm sure you probably heard about that from Kelson J as well. But we always laugh at Alex because he's like Mary Poppins of the bus community, just keeps pulling some crazy thing out, of the bus.
Man, it never hurts to be prepared. That's for sure. That's for sure. Well, what do you guys have planned going? I mean, I know you guys kind of talked a little bit about you finishing up the project here with yours, and you're going to go help some people down there, kind of close to you guys with another bus.
Yeah, we're gonna meet up with we're gonna stay in Florida right now because Kristen hates the snow or anything cold at all.
Yeah,
So we're not gonna go north right now. We're gonna kind of stay around here. There's a lot of people around here that we're gonna just help out. And then, our ultimate goal is to make it to Alaska, but with the world being in the way it is right now, we can't get over the border. You can get over the border, but it's like, you have to pretty much go straight there, which isn't.
You have 10, if you go into Canada right now, you have 10 days to get to Alaska.
Oh,
so you're not allowed to explore anywhere in Canada.
You can't go to like,
so unless they reopen the border, to us it just doesn't make sense to make that trip. So we're like crossing our fingers and hoping that it'll be open by summertime, but we'll see.
Yeah. So anyways, we're kind of unknown right now. We want to hit the middle of the US. We never really hit all of that too much.
That's one of the questions I like to ask, is because of the uncertainty of last year for most people. But if you're traveling around in a bus or any kind of vehicle, that seemed like an interesting thing to me. It's like every state had different restrictions. Even every town had different restrictions for certain things. So for people trying to figure out like, hey, where do we go? What should do we make a mad dash to kind of like wherever our kind of home base is, or do we how was that for you guys?
Yeah, like it really didn't change that much for us. I mean, besides when we would go into like restaurants or things, and some places in the beginning would ask you to wear a mask and some places wouldn't. But now I'm like everywhere, I'm sure it's just mask, and that's the main.
So we kind of stayed still for a while. But I mean, ultimately we're social distancing out in the middle of the desert or wherever we were at. We would just have to go get groceries. And a lot of times, like, Kristen has this thing called Shipped. So like they'll do all the grocery shopping for you, and they'll literally drop it off at our bus. Like if we're in some kind of place that has that.
Well, you have to have an address for that to work. So I can only do that when we would be at like Dean's house or something. But yeah, anytime we have an address, I use Shipped to just get it delivered to us.
And they just leave it outside the front door. So that's like a nice thing. But I mean, we kind of just laid low for the most part. We weren't like
wait some of the parts out there. I imagine that's what a lot of people were doing especially in the Southwest areas for sure. Awesome. Well, man, I'm super glad you guys were able to join. Is there anything in the future you guys have planned anywhere kind of that any new projects coming up?
Other than Alaska, I don't think we'll ever leave or move out of the bus until we make it to Alaska somehow, some way.
That's cool.
The plan is to have the bus in Alaska at some point in time. I don't know when that time might be. But anyways, that. And then I don't know, we'd like to get maybe some land or something like that, and make like a little compound, maybe things. We always love projects, so it's like, what could be the next project or area? But it's like, really, maybe that's what we're going to do this summer, is like find where's that spot that we want to be, where is that spot with the mountain and the water and where is that at that we would like to stay for.
But thank you guys so much. I appreciate it and hope to talk to you guys soon.
Thanks for having us.
Have a good one. Thank you for listening to this week's episode of the Peach Life Podcast. Next week, we are joined by Jared Tochi. Come along as we chat about some of the different reasons people get into van life, building his custom Gladiator overland vehicle, and a sneak peek into some of the upcoming things on his channel.